Our next speaker today is Alvaro Caballero from Data Sniper. Alvaro is the head of people, and he will tell us what are the skills required to become a software engineer. Hi, Alvaro. Welcome.
Hi there, welcome everyone. Is the audio working all right?
Yes, perfect.
Brilliant. Then allow me to share my screen really quickly. Please let me know if you're actually able to see it. Yeah, it works. Okay, then I'll just kick it off. Hi. So we only have 15, 20 minutes, so I will be very brief and effective. I hope so. My name is Alvaro Caballero, as I was introduced by Isadora. I'm the head of people at Data Sniper. It's been 4 months since I started this journey, and it's been quite a journey, actually. But today I want to just give it a brief introduction. Myself, an engineer, but I never really practiced as an engineer. I finished the studies, and then I moved more into the business administration side of things. I started a traineeship program for management at ING, and that's where I had more of my career growing on the enterprise side. I ended up being the head of the Tech Academy, and so I did spend a lot of time working with engineers and for engineers to make sure that they actually get the support they need to grow their career, right? So a lot of my experience comes from that. And now, of course, as head of people at Data Sniper, I'm also looking at the development of the careers, but not only engineering, but across the whole organization, right? And today, what I would love to talk to you about is, like what are the skills that I would recommend for you to build as a software engineer. I'm not going to be telling you to study X or Y framework or X or Y as particular coding language. There's plenty of discussions around that. Today, what I want to share is something a little bit more intuitive and more long-term in terms of looking at your career. So I have 3 things to tell you today. The first one is that in order for you to figure out a little bit better what you want to do with your career, you need to start looking at your career journey already, right? So as I put right there, Yogi Berra, one of the greatest philosophers of the previous generation, you got to be very careful if you don't know where you're going because you might not get there, right? And then so what is it that I mean here is that coming from an enterprise side of the career. I can really tell you many organizations will put together career ladders, right? So now that you're studying, it's a great time for you to start looking at those career ladders and try to figure out what are the skills that are going to be expected for you to be evolving as you grow your career, right? And then so you have, luckily we live in the internet time, and then there's plenty of these frameworks that are available, and they are open source or they are published. The site that I recommend you to take a look at is called progression.fyi. In there, you have plenty of those organizations who open source or who published their career ladders or their career frameworks. That is going to give you a lot of interesting information on what skills I'm going to be evaluated on, what skills I can start putting together here, right? So that's the first piece of feedback that I have for you. Start looking a little bit ahead, start looking at the plans, start understanding what careers fit you a little bit better than others. But if we look a little bit deeper at the careers, specifically these career ladders, you will see that most of them are based in the generic Dreyfus model of skill acquisition. Now, that is important for you to keep into consideration because it also gives you a sense of direction that you need to start doing on how to trying to understand how is it that you're actually building your skills. Right? So how do you move from that novice to advanced beginner to competent to expert, right? So very, very focused on understanding not only the type of skills that I'm going to be evaluated on or the type of skills that are useful for my career, but also what are the things that I need to start doing that demonstrate acquisition of skill. And so if you put those 2 things together, at the beginning of your career, you have a very strong foundation to say, yeah, I kind of know more or less where I want to go, right? So this is something that I recommend often to people who are looking at what is the next step for their career. This is an example, going a little bit deeper, this is an example which is deprecated already, but it shows you a little bit, this is how you're going to be evaluated. This is the kind of conversations that you're going to have probably with your future managers. Where do you rank in terms of the skill of all the different frameworks that you have available? So this is a couple of screenshots from Dropbox, from Medium. So that actually gives you a good idea of what I mean. The second thing that I have as feedback for you, or as an idea of start building these capabilities, is writing. Okay, I know we're engineers, we love building solutions, right? But I always like to say, clear thinking is clear writing, is clear thinking, right? So if you aim at getting your point across, regardless of the quality of your product, if you cannot explain the benefits, if you cannot explain the trade-offs, it's going to be a difficult value proposition, and you will be rewarded for bringing that value forward, right? And if we look at today, the way of working is unlikely that a sync way of working, remote way of working are going anywhere. So the more we work async, the more we work remote, the more we rely on effective writing skills. So again, spend time on building your writing skills. It might be counterintuitive, but it pays off, right? And to give you a couple of examples, right, this is not something that I just came up with. This is looking at what other excellent engineering organizations are already doing. Like to give you the example, in 2004, there is this book written by Amazon veterans Bill Carr and Colin Breyer, and they were telling the story of how in 2004 Jeff Bezos decided that he wanted to stop with the PowerPoints, and now every major decision at Amazon's leadership is discussed in a narrative type of document, the famous 6-page demo, and it is required for everyone in the meeting to read that, but it requires someone to prepare that 6-page demo, and it really forces everyone in the decision-making funnel. It requires focus on narrative, okay? PowerPoint is good at conveying data, but the decisions require that narrative, and memos are better for that. It allows you to deliver more information density, so you can pack a lot more information in 6 pages of a memo than just a PowerPoint with pretty images. It focuses the discussion about ideas and not about charisma. You don't have to be a great presenter. You don't have to be TED Talk style of presentations. You focus on the information and the ideas packed in a really terse prose. Allows for better analysis, for better discussions, and is way easier to build that shared understanding. Because whether or not you agree with that memo, it is focused on the points that are relevant and allows for people to circle around the same discussions, okay? A couple of other examples, another excellent, going back here, there's another example, Stripe. It is a great organization in terms of engineering. They're a global organization, the Collinson brothers, and they actually have a very strong writing culture. They actually created a publishing arm of Stripe because the founders find so important that people know how to write. So they actually support the publishing, right? I like to give resources. So in this case, I recommend, if you're not following him already, Gergely Oros. He writes The Pragmatic Engineer. He has a newsletter and he has a blog, and he has plenty of resources available on Twitter. He actually makes the point as well of how important it is to actually build your writing skills. So follow him already. There's plenty of stuff that you can learn from him. He actually wrote a blog post on what are his recommendations on resources. So here it is, a couple of tools. Hemingway Editor, it makes your text easier to read. And Grammarly Pro, if you don't have it already, please try and get it. They have a free version as well. It helps you, actually analyzes your text and gets it better. Even simple emails get better when you have some support for some tools. A couple of other resources in terms of books. The best one I have to recommend for you guys is William Caesar on Writing Well. It's fantastic. Then you have Benjamin Dreyer on Dreyer's English, and Will Strong on The Element of Styles. All of these provide a lot of information on what it takes to simplify and get nice writing process for yourself. And there's also free online resources. You don't have to buy the books. On the craft of writing effectively, technical writing courses by Google, or the Writing Well handbook by Julian Shapiro. Those things are available on the internet. You can start already today on building your writing skills. Cannot repeat this enough. Good communication is good writing. So start building those skills. And the third recommendation for you joining this summit is decision making. And at the end of the day, we live and die by the decisions we make. And within an organization, most of the time they're going to ask you to be fast, but spending some time of getting the right decision-making process is super important. There is a lot of information out there. One of the things that I like the most is to focus on mental models that allows you for better decision making. So this is my recommendation for you today. The mental models that you start building, those are kind of like shortcuts that allows you to focus on the right outcomes. So start studying, start reading about those mental models, because you have all this messiness of information, and the mental models allows you to put things in perspective, put things in a structure that allows you to make decisions faster. Okay. Decision making is not one thing, it's a collection of tools, from frameworks, and again, these mental models. There are at least 3 mental models that I want to mention today that I think will be good for you to take a look at. The first one is second order thinking. So think in terms of interactions and time. So understand that interventions will have multiple effects beyond the direct ones. So if I do something, something else happens, but then sit a little bit longer and look at that chain of potential consequences. If something else happens, what else will happen? So ask yourself, and then what? Something happens, that will happen, that else will happen, and then what? And then think a little bit through time. If I do this, what are the consequences in 10 minutes, in 10 months, or in 10 years? Okay? So look at it from those perspectives. That's what I mean by second order thinking. The second way of making quick decisions with a little bit of thinking is regret minimizations. Try and look for things that maximize your long-term happiness, that prioritize projects that you would regret not being part of. So think a little bit at the middle age and look back and say, hey, I regret not doing that. Those are the things you should prioritize. So regret minimization, very good framework for prioritizing decision making. And the third one is something that you might be using already, is inversion. Thinking something through the reverse or thinking something backwards, right? So it's a problem-solving technique. So instead of, for instance, only thinking, you have a team and then you say, what are the best way to foster a great team? Try sometimes to look at the other way around and say, what are the things that I need to avoid so this is not a bad team? And you have to make those two perspectives together, one with the other, but then inversion actually helps you get faster on the analysis of the problem. Again, I like to give recommendations. Resources for mental model. Look, Scott H. Young has a fantastic blog. James Clear, he has a fantastic book, but also he wrote about decision-making models. Julian Shapiro, I recommended before, also great resources about decision-making and mental models. And my absolute favorites are Anne-Laure Lecomte from Neslav. If you can afford it, I think it's like 50 euros per year. Join her community. She has a lot of information, and she has a community of people who are really into mental models, among many other things. And then the absolute best for me is Shane Parrish. He has Farnham Street, a blog and a podcast that I recommend absolutely for you to take a look at. And he actually has a paid course solely focused on decision making. I already took the course and I got so much out of it because it really embeds ways of thinking at a problem from different perspectives and going faster, knowing that there's quality on your thinking. So there you have it. I know I went a little bit fast, but those are my recommendations. Doing a bit of a recap, have a bit of a map where you want to go, and for that you need career ladders and you need to understand the Dreyfus models. The second one, invest a lot of time not only on your technical skills but also on your writing skills, and try and bring a toolbox of mental models to support faster and high quality decision making. Those are my recommendations for those of you looking for engineering. If you build these things, they will pay off big time. I think this is it from me. Just checking if there are any questions that I might be able to answer. I'm just looking at the chat. But don't seem to have any questions.
I was on mute, sorry. I have a question actually.
Yes.
for the writing skills, you mentioned that it's important to have writing skills. Um, so, do you think that a person should like better their writing skills in English? Or
Yeah, it's very contextual. Like if you look from a global workforce, of course, English is the lingua franca of the business, right? So I always recommend improve a little bit your dictions, but that's where tools like Grammarly or the Hemingway they actually help you, because you don't have to be the best, you don't have to have impeccable grammar. You're able to communicate effectively, and then you have these tools to actually get you to the next level, right? That being said, if you want to build your writing skills in your native language, because that is the context of how you work, absolutely, absolutely. I think the important thing to recognize here is that writing becomes a lot more important. And I keep saying counterintuitively, because at school, like writing lessons were about essays, were about massive reports, were about like 20 pages of read this book and write a report on that. Fine that we do that when we're learning at school, but writing in the business context, in the company's context, it boils down to things as simple as, how do I write a proper email that gets people to spring into action effectively? How do I explain my idea very quickly, and it has to be just one paragraph? So it's micro writing in a sense, that the most effective ones are the ones that are clearly written. And so that's the importance of writing, is it comes across in chats, in Slack, in emails, in your quarterly reports. It's a lot of writing there, and we don't really see the importance, but it has a massive effect. As a manager, as a coach, I had conversations with engineers, and those who are able to articulate effectively their thinking through writing, they get more attention to their ideas, and that's just because they're more effective in communication.
yes, yes, I agree. And also, I think communicating, not just writing, but verbally, is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. Verbal communication will remain the case, but
Yeah,
especially working in an office, verbal was kind of like a given. We never really paid
yeah,
attention, and then so the transition towards async or remote made writing one of those things. That's what I'm telling you. If you look at a trend,
yeah.
that's not going back. So better brush up on the writing.
That's true. Someone said, great presentation. Thank you. Can you share the first website about career prospects again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It's progressions.fyi. It's here on the screen, and yeah, progression.fyi.
Okay, perfect. I think that's it. If you could send me the link, maybe I can share like the links that you have on your presentation. I can share it with everyone because I think it's gonna be good resources to have
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
So that was my desire in this presentation, to actually give you the recommendation of the
Yeah.
resources. There's a lot to do and to unpack, so I'll be happy to give you all that collection.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, then. Thank you for your talk and coming and speaking to everyone. It was a pleasure having you here, and it's always you have very great content, so it was great. I think I learned a lot as well.
Absolutely. I hope it was helpful, and thanks for the invitation, Isadora.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.